Weeknights with Gordon Smart.
Hello and thank you very much for listening to Weeknights on 5 Live. Welcome to Tuesday morning as well. It's that time of the week when we talk to someone whose love of bars has more to do with musical notes than alcohol. And of course, he's never off key. It is our resident musicologist, Dr. Beat himself, the musicologist Professor Joe Bennett. He is with us every week to decipher the secrets of great songs and try and find out what it is that drives our love affair with music. Last week it was all about the bass, but tonight it's all about cover versions. Good evening to you, Joe.
Hey there, Gordon. Good to be here again.
That's great. How are you doing this week, Joe, by the way? Are you well?
Oh yeah, can't complain. We've weather's improved a little in January. It can really close in Boston. So my dog is getting slightly longer walks around the neighborhood right now. So she's very pleased about it, and so am I.
Here's a deeply personal question for you, Joe. But what do you listen to when you're walking the dog? Are you a podcast man, or do you need a break from music?
You know what? It's the second one. It's talk radio. It's like, I often have 5 live on the feed 5 hours ago. I sometimes a little bit of Radio 4, sometimes podcasts. It tends, in fact, my studio designer once said to me, show me somebody who works in the music industry and I'll show you someone who loves talk radio.
That's it, yeah. Again, it's all about the cobbler's son, isn't it? You just got to have a break from it sometimes. But Joe, we've got a massive response tonight. I just want to tell you, I'm looking at these messages dropping in about cover versions, so you've really got people into this tonight. Got a message here from JG. He says, first of all, the first question in the quiz, I've definitely got it right. And then he says, my favourite cover version is Europe covering UFO Love to Love. But I would also like to say there are some that shouldn't be heard, like Ozzy Osbourne's version of John Lennon's Woman. Remember that one?
Oh my gosh, did Ozzy do that one? I confess I have not yet had that perhaps dubious pleasure.
We're getting loads in the midnight hour by The Jam, which is apt, says Peter from Ealing. He's absolutely right. There are loads of suggestions coming in tonight and we'll get through them. But Joe, before we get into our big conversation about the cover song, because we're going to curate as many of these messages as we can, it is the theme for this week's quiz.
Yes, cover versions is the theme for this week's quiz. And we started putting together with this week's quiz a bunch of sort of classic songs. And we chose them because we thought the covers were interesting. And then as I was looking at these classic songs, we suddenly realized they're all from the same year. The originals were all from either released or recorded in 1971. So there's our theme. We've got cover versions of songs that were big in 71.
Fantastic. Right, so 1971, and you're going to give us quite a lot of clues actually tonight, Joe, aren't you? Which hasn't been how you've played it so far.
Well, it's going to seem like it's super generous and maybe too easy, this quiz. I'm going to tell you the artist, the songwriter, the year the cover version came out, and the name of the song. All you got to do is tell me who is singing the cover version. Excellent. Who is the vocalist?
Excellent. This sounds, on paper, this sounds like it's going to be straightforward, but I've got a feeling you're going to put a little curveball in tonight. So Joe, Professor Joe, take it away with your music quiz this week.
Okay, number 1. This is Rocket Man by Elton John, the original recording released in 1972.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, I'm a rocket man.
I think a lot of people are going to know that. And this is a 2011 cover version of Rocket Man.
And I think it's going to be a long, long time till touchdown brings me around again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. No. I'm a rocket man.
Rocket Man.
Excellent, Rocket Man. Right, pens and paper at the ready. You had that one earlier, right? So you've had a head start on this. Everything now is fresh, Joe.
This is brand new. Okay, so this is another 71 classic. This is Behind Blue Eyes by The Who. Here's a little bit of the original.
No one knows what it's like to be the bad man.
to be the sad man behind the blue eyes. No one knows what it's like to be.
Okay, and this is a cover version that was released in 2003. Name either the vocalist or the artist, the band that covered it. Here it is.
No one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind blue eyes, and no one knows what it's like.
Oh, Joe, you're testing me
so-
tonight. That's my karaoke song as well. I know, I'm not doing it.
I'd love to hear that. So for number 3, this is another 71 classic, and a lot of people are going to know this. This is American Pie by Don McLean. Here's the original.
I started singing bye bye Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye and singing, this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die.
Joe,
Okay, at
Joe,
2000,
I've just got to interrupt for a second, Joe, because we did
Go
have a
ahead.
message saying on the subject of cover versions, the day when this cover that we're doing right now, that was the day the music died, and that's from Addy and Blakedown. So on you go.
Oh, harsh. Everyone's a critic, right? So this one actually was quite well known. I think maybe a lot of people will get this. This is from 2000. Name the vocalist.
I started singing bye bye Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. And good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye, singing this will be the day that I die.
Okay, so for our next one, this is also from 1971. This is a very famous, perhaps one of the most famous songs in the world. This is Imagine by John Lennon. Here's the original.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us.
Now, I think this is the hardest one, so I'm going to give you quite a bit of it. Female vocalist, the cover version is from 2007. Listen really carefully.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us on the sky.
A little more difficult, maybe?
Yeah.
Now, 1971 was a big year. A lot of real rock classics were released, and one of them was this one, David Bowie's Life on Mars.
It's good to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the long man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if you'll ever know who's in the best of his.
And here's an unexpected cover version, a very famous vocalist. This is from 1974.
They ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the long man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know. He's in the best-selling show. Is there life on
So there you have it, 5 covers of 1971 songs. Name the singer.
Fantastic. And that was just by accident that 1971 seemed to be the year that provided the inspiration, Joe.
Well, we tried maybe, I don't know, 10 or 15. We have a short list of, and I always like to mix it up a bit and have artists from different countries, different genders, different styles. And it just so happened that we ended up with this bucket of songs from 71. And I thought, isn't that interesting that all these songs came out that year or were written in that year, and then for decades after, people kept re-recording them.
That's fantastic. I really enjoyed them, Joe. So thanks so much for them. And tonight we are having that conversation about cover versions, wide-ranging subject. So how do you think we're going to do this to then? What do you think the best way to handle this is tonight?
So I think what interests me about cover versions is that they are, by definition, they are not the songwriter singing their own work. They are someone reinterpreting it. And I think we've talked about it a few times now. A lot of my consultancy work is in music copyright. To be clear about cover versions, it's totally legit to do a cover version. Anyone can do a cover version. The copyright acts of the various countries mean that you don't have to get a license or get permission. You can just put something out, and as long as the royalties find their way back to the original songwriter, and there are mechanisms for that, there's no issue with it. As an example to my students, I say, well, think of all of the 12-year-old girls with ukuleles that are singing Riptide on YouTube. You know, that's a thing, and it has been for quite a few years. Those people obviously don't need a license. So a cover version is just someone doing their own take on a song. And so I got into researching this, and I thought there's lots of examples of cover versions where we don't know that the famous song is in fact a cover version. That is where the original is like super obscure. And then presumably, I figured there's going to be a ton of examples where the opposite is true, where the original is super famous and loads of people have covered it, but they are less famous than that original, those cover versions. And then I thought, you know, my sense of sort of musical mischief, let's find the crazies, you know, let's find the people who are just out there and doing something radical with this song. I suggest perhaps number one in our quiz is a good example of that, that vocalist, it's not a spoiler to say American vocalist, reinterpreting Rocket Man in that way.
Oh, this is great, Joe. It's a great idea for it. We actually had a message earlier on from Ashley, and she did say to us, what if you want to cover someone else's song, may you ask Joe what you need to do in terms of permission? And incidentally, Rockin' All Over the World is probably one of the best known covers, Ashley.
That's a good example. Yeah, Rockin' All Over the World. John Fogerty, I believe, originally was the writer, and indeed, Status Quo's cover, certainly in the UK, was very famous. It's interesting when I mention Status Quo to my American friends, they're like, "Who's that?" You know, one of the most enduring British bands. They never quite were just as big over here in the US.
Yeah, it's probably better for their health that they never cracked America, in all honesty, going back then. But yeah, so Joe, where should we start then? We've got a song here, actually. So we're going to start with something that couldn't be more 1980s if it tried. It's very recognisable. Have a little listen to this.
Her hair is hollow gold, her lips sweet surprise. Her hands are never cold. She's got Bette Davis eyes. She'll turn her music on you. You won't have to think twice. She's pure as New York snow. She got Bette Davis eyes.
So that is the cover version, and actually unmistakably 80s, right? But just to give you
it is. And the synths, I think the synths give it away in that track. I'm not getting the show music playback terribly great quality right now, so I hope the guys behind the glass can maybe fix that. But I could just hear a bit of Bette Davis' eyes, and thankfully it's a track I know really well. Got those chimey, dingy 1981 synths in there. But this is an example. This is a version from 6 years earlier, and this is Jackie DeShannon. Famous songwriter, was really big in the 1960s, still around, and it's a remarkable remarkably different thing. And the thing to listen out for here is that the groove is different. So a little moment of technical explanation. When you're in 4/4 time, 4 beats to the bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can be in straight time, where the beat subdivides as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or you can be in what musicians call swing time, where you stagger the beat. So it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so the Kim Carnes version is straight, and this original, the Jackie DeShannon version, she is the original songwriter. It's in swing time. So yeah, take a listen. It's remarkable.
Her hair is hollow gold. Her lips are sweet surprise. Her hands are never cold. She's got Betty Davis eyes. She'll turn the music on you. And you
See,
will have
I can hear that perfectly, Joe. I know you're having a struggle to hear that in your studio in Boston, but just so you know, we can all hear that perfectly. And
That's good to know.
I have never heard that before. So that's the first time. I didn't realise it was a cover, first of all, but it's so different. I mean, it's amazing that somebody's even had a musical ear to turn that into the 80s synth magic that it became in 81 or 82, whenever it was. But that original is so, and it was only 6 years earlier. I thought it might have been further back than that, Joe.
Right. Well, and I think the Kim Carnes version tells us a lot about, production innovation, music production innovation in the early 80s. There was, it seemed like new synth technologies coming out every year. And so there's in fact, I think the production on Betty Davis Eyes, the Kim Carnes version, sounds more mid-80s than the early 80s time it was actually made, so it was sort of very influential, I think. But yeah, totally different song, and as you say, well, you need some kind of vision to hear that potential in what is basically a swing ballad.
Yeah, and Joe, what a massive success as well. Just for anybody who doesn't know, it won 2 Grammys, Record of the Year, Song of the Year. That was in 1982. It was number 1 in the Billboard Hot 100 for 9 weeks in the spring of 81. So a massively, massively successful cover version. And as you said, Joe, a great example of the cover being more successful than the original.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really remarkable, and I think I'd vaguely heard the original, and I sort of knew it was a cover, but it wasn't until I started preparing for the show that I got really into the Jackie DeShannon version, and it's terrific in a different way.
Fantastic. I loved it. We've had so many suggestions this evening. I'll have to go through them at some point. But I keep thinking now about Arctic Monkeys, about It Look Good on the Dance Floor. I don't know if you've got that one in later on, but keep sending them in if you'd like to 85058, any cover versions you'd like Joe to give a mention to. But we're going to do our next one now, because the next cover version is a little bit different in the sense that so many of us know it's a cover version, I think. And we know who originally wrote it, but the song is just beautiful. So have a little listen to this. Nothing Compares to You, Sinead O'Connor.
It's been 7 hours and 50 days since you took your love away. I go out every night and sleep all day since you took your love away. Since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want.
So there we go, Sinead O'Connor, the late great Sinead O'Connor. Just such a beautiful delivery of those lyrics. But it was written by Prince, of course. And if you're not familiar with it, here's what the original sounded like.
I wonder if it's deceptive that I think you might be right. I didn't do a BPM analysis before we started. I can normally get to within maybe 5 just by ear. So I don't want to commit to that. But I think what's interesting is that Prince's version has much more of a pulse in that section. You could hear that jing, dong, jing, dong, jing, that sort of classic singer-songwriter electric piano. Whereas the Sinead O'Connor version in that section you played, it has what's called a keyboard pad, which is that very soft, that warm chord that just really offsets the vocal. And for those who know that song well, or like me were around at the time when it came out, it has that extraordinary video where it's just her face to camera in one long take with the tear. And you know, just as an aside, I know it's not what we're really here to talk about, but what an extraordinary lyric. Yeah. You know, it's been 7 hours and 15 days. Just that opening line, you already know you're going to hear a story of heartbreak.
Yeah, and that's something we were talking about for another week, wasn't it? Those incredibly powerful opening. There's a great example. What a great line to grab you in the storytelling straight away.
Because the fact that character feels that they want to tell you that means that it's really on their mind. It shows the intensity of their feeling just through what appears like a trivial factual statement.
And Joe, what does it tell us about Prince that he realised that the delivery Sinead O'Connor could give that song would perhaps elevate it beyond the recording he did for the album with the family in '85, do you think? Did he realise that there was another life in it, perhaps?
Well, he's got a track record of being able to do that. You know, he obviously was an outstanding and extraordinary artist in his own right, but he was also very cheerful about giving other people songs. And but I think it was really about, I don't know how much he knew before agreeing to it that was the production approach that we're going to take. But again, what an extraordinary record. And everything is working emotionally in the same direction there. The production, the vocal style, the lyric, the underlying song. Amazing.
Joe, we've got a question for you. We're really going to put you on the spot here. Ian in Canary Wharf in London says, could you ask Joe where the expression cover version originates? Why is it the word cover? Do you have the answer?
I don't have an answer off the top of my head in my general musical knowledge. I can only imagine it probably comes from the world of music publishing, because famously in the first half of the 20th century, the reason we talked about the music publishing industry is that sheet music used to sell more than vinyl back in the day. In fact, that only sort of flipped around sometime around the 1950s. So I would imagine it's to do with under a different cover. But if anyone's got any more general knowledge about that, I'd love to know.
There we go. We've beaten the musicologist. That's the first time it's happened. We will have an answer very soon, I'm sure. Right, let's have another one, Joe. The next cover version is perhaps one of the most lucrative ever. It's come up already, actually, in our conversations in the first part of this year. At the end of 1992, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing this.
And I will always love you.
So that was Whitney Houston, but it was another woman who wrote it, Dolly Parton no less. So Joe, tell us about the original, because it was a completely different recording.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so Dolly obviously was the original writer, and unsurprisingly, the original was a bit more country. So Dolly Parton originally did record her own version. It was perfectly successful. You know, it was really associated with her and a great song, and her fans loved it. The story goes that the first time Dolly Parton heard Whitney Houston's version on the radio, she was driving her car and was so overwhelmed that she had to actually pull over. And I think we've all had moments like that with popular music. You know, something's just, what the heck is this thing? So, and famously, the 92 version appeared in the movie The Bodyguard, which is another reason you couldn't go anywhere in the early 90s and avoid it. There is actually a story that Elvis was going to record a cover, but because Elvis had these connections with always wanting to do deals, his famously manipulative managers, the story goes that his manager asked for half of the copyright and Dolly refused, so Elvis didn't record it. So then, you know, there might otherwise be an Elvis version out there were it not for that. Fantastic. But, you know, on a musical level, for me, the Dolly version is the definitive one, just subjectively, because this poignant lyric, you know, if I should stay, I'd only be in your way. It's someone doing a fond parting and yet celebrating the relationship that they had while knowing it cannot go any further. It's absolutely heartbreaking lyric. And for me, as I say, just subjectively, I think Dolly puts that emotion off over even better than Whitney Houston, and that's saying something.
Let's have a little listen, shall we? This is the original Dolly Parton, I Will Always Love You. That's lovely. Joe, I'm going to ask you a technical musical question. Would I be right in saying that sort of flaring note, is that a vibrato, is it?
There is some vib there. I mean, Dolly Parton has an exquisite vibrato, as famously did Whitney Houston. So yes, you were hearing, but I think there she's using it as an emotional effect as well. You know, all singers have vibrato to a greater or lesser extent. Actually, with the exception of Kate Rusby, who we're going to hear a little bit from in a moment, has a very low vibrato in her voice, and that's part of her style. But yeah, to me, that quavering, I'm not going to even attempt to do it live on radio, but we heard Dolly do it just there, and I think that really puts across the character's vulnerability incredibly well.
Fantastic. We've had a little message here saying that was lovely, but surely Sid Vicious doing My Way is better. And I've got a note from the people behind the glass saying, on no account, Gordon, can we play this song on air, so forget it. But yeah, it's quite a suggestion, isn't it? At the other end of the spectrum there, Joe. Right, you've got another brilliant suggestion tonight, Joe, and I'm so pleased with your selections, as always, but this is lovely stuff. So for the next song, we're going to go back to another Prince Penn song, Manic Monday, but you've chosen not one, not two, not three, 4 different versions of it. So let's start with the most famous one. This is the Bangles.
It's just another manic Monday. Wish it was Sunday. That's my fun day. I don't have to run day. It's just another manic.
So that's the Bangles' Manic Monday, and that really was, one of the first songs I really truly remember loving as a kid. I thought it was amazing. But so that was the Bangles, of course, Joe, right? But shall we hear Prince's version? Let's have a little take it apart. What are the differences there?
Well, it's interesting that they're actually both in the same key. So Prince is singing really quite low in his range. He's got a much higher voice than that. And Susanna Hoff's vocal on the Bangles version from '86 is actually, she sings it in the upper octave. And it's kind of rare to actually have the vocals a whole octave apart. Normally you would change the key for a different singing. But what's remarkable about that Prince demo, that Prince recording from 80 recorded in '84, I believe, is that it's got so much of the spirit of the eventual cover version that the Bangles did. I believe even some of the drum fills are actually the same. So he clearly had a vision for how he wanted it to be. That version was actually released posthumously in 2019, and I think the album was called Originals. Mm-hmm. So it was a real insight in. I'm always interested in that process of like when you can hear, it's so rare, you can hear different parts of the production chain of how you got to a great record, and that was one step along the way.
And you mentioned earlier on, just in passing, Kate Rusby, but I think she might be involved. So we've got another 2 versions to get through, but this is at the folk end of the spectrum, isn't it? So why have you gone for this one, Joe?
Well, first of all, I'm just a huge fanboy for Kate Rusby. I think she's fantastic. It's maybe because my father was a Yorkshireman. I love the fact that she sings in a proper northern accent and stays true to her roots. And she also has this incredibly light vibrato. It's almost not there at all, and that's again part of her folk style, while being laser in on the note. But this is the musical effect of COVID we're hearing here. So Kate and her family, just like so many of us, were locked down at that time in 2020, and so looking for something to do with a home studio. What are you going to do? Cover some of your favorite songs. And so she put this one out. I don't know I think it was put out on YouTube at the same time as the audio came out. And it was it's just an exquisite version. She messes with the chords a little bit, but I think in just the right way to sort of make it her own.
Excellent. Right, let's have a little listen to it. This is Kate Rusby, Manic Monday.
Just another manic Monday. Wish it was Sunday. That's my fun day.
absolute treat that is tonight. It really is, Joe. Thank you so much for that. Even like you say, the pronunciation and enunciation of "war," the word "war" is perfect. It really works, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just another Manic Monday.
It's great. Yeah, I love that. Right, so we've done 3 of the 4, and let's play the 4th. Right, I'll let you explain afterwards why this is another part of the musical spectrum. But let's do Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong and his cover of Manic Monday.
It's just another Manic Monday. I wish it was Sunday.
Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong. It's a malleable song, this, Joe. Why is it lending itself to a cover so well?
Well, it's got some nice simple chords. It's a very simple melody. The chorus, I'm just thinking about it. The chorus doesn't go over more than a perfect fifth, so it's very easy to sing in any key. Grabs a guitar. Hang on.
Oh yes, this is the great moments when Joe reaches for the guitar.
I'm going to try and do this off the fly. Billy Joel is in A major, I think, there. So, and the Kate Rusby version has this lovely descending thing, which if I do it in G, So basically, once you've got that sort of 2-chord, arguably 3-chord vamp there's a lot you can do with it. So it suits kind of power pop in the Green Day style, and it suits sort of exquisite major key, folky picking in the Kate Rusby style. What a great song.
I get the sense the Kate Rusby version might be your favourite, Joe. Am I right in saying that?
Can you tell my biases just by my tone of voice there, Gordon? What oral skills you have.
Well, maybe this could be another one for the weeks ahead, Joe, where a regional accent works so brilliantly with music. Because I think I touched on it before. Alex Turner and Bingo Dobbers and, the mention of particularly north of England lyrics in his delivery, I think that works really well. So that might work for us, mightn't it?
I think so. Perhaps that's the theme. That's been an interesting thing to research. People who don't sing in a mid-Atlantic accent, all the other accents that are out there.
Yeah, let's explore that. A bit of Richard Hawley as well. I think there might actually just be something about Yorkshire here, going all the way back, George Formby and beyond. But let's have a little go at that another week. Thoroughly enjoyed that, Joe. So that was brilliant, right? But before we carry on, we're still after your suggestions for great opening lines to songs for a future feature. So send in your suggestions, 85058. We've already had a great suggestion, a bit of Prince or a bit of Sinead O'Connor we heard earlier on. But we're going to have a look now at some cover versions that are not quite so famous, right? There may be good reasons for this. And we're going to start with some Irving Berlin and a song made famous by Fred Astaire. Have a listen to this.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem lit? Puttin' on the Ritz, spangled gown upon the bevy of high browns from down the levee, all misfits. Puttin' on the Ritz.
So here we go. That was Puttin' on the Ritz, Fred Astaire. The song became a hit in 1982 in America, Joe. Is that right?
Yes, 1982 in America. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. It was the electro-pop version that broke through.
Really?
Yeah, because when you hear that Fred Astaire recording, you think what this needs is more synthesizers. And that's exactly what the Indonesian Dutch singer Taco did with it in 1982.
Right, should we have a little listen to it, Joe? Because I think I can't live in suspense any longer with this, right? Let's have a listen to Taco and Puttin' on the Ritz.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Puttin' on the Ritz. Different types of everyday coat, pants with stripes and cutaway coat, perfect fits. Puttin' on the Ritz.
See, Joe, you have surprised me again tonight because I don't think I was familiar with that. I mean, what was the original? I don't know, Irving Berlin would have been late 20s?
Yeah, good knowledge there. Yeah, he was. So he wrote it in 27. The original hit was by Harry Richmond in 1930, and the version we just heard there was the most famous one, the Fred Astaire one from the movie of the same name, which was from a later movie from Blue Skies. So it was a slightly more sophisticated recording than the 1930 version. But yeah, he just put like drum machine all over it and then recreated a bunch of those orchestral parts on synths, and it's got a real kind of charm of its own, dare I say.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? There's a little stat here, I don't know if I missed that there, but Taco's version, number 4, 1984, it made Irving Berlin, who was 95 at the time, the oldest living songwriter to have a top 10 hit, which is a remarkable record, isn't it? It's brilliant, brilliant. Loved that, Joe, thank you. So let's go and have another one. Let's have a leap forward to 95, when original and cover version were both in the charts, both made to number 2. But let's put it this way, only one of them is heard on the radio now. First, let's have a little listen to the original track. This is Oasis and Wonderwall.
Because maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my Wonderwall.
There you go. Oasis and Wonderwall, that song's probably paid for 2 or 3 mansions for Noel Gallagher's ex-wives. And here's the largely forgotten cover version, the unmistakable, beautiful voice of Mike Flower Pops.
Baby, are you gonna be the one that saves me? And after all, you're my Wonderwall.
So there we go, Mike Flowers Pops. I've actually got a bit of trivia behind this for you. It's a friend of mine, Joe, who A&R'd and signed this record, an author called John Niven. And then he went on to write a book called Kill Your Friends. But when he was an A&R man for London Records, his big novelty signing was Mike Flowers Pops. You know? It was, I think it paid him a few quid as well. He didn't do too badly off the back of it. But I think the troublesome follow-up EP was an absolute disaster for the record label, from what I remember.
Poor guy. But clearly they were having fun with that. Yeah, as you say, it is really just a fun parody. And yeah, everyone was talking about lounge in the mid-90s. I was working for a guitar magazine, and Oasis were the coolest thing in 95. So I loved the mischief behind this record when it came out.
It was good fun, wasn't it? And it also reminds us of the power of the breakfast show on Radio 1, because I think Chris Evans played it so much, it propelled it to number 1. Perhaps there wasn't the same radio support for the follow-up material, which might have led to the decline of Mike Flowers Pops. But yeah, let's talk about, Joe, let's do some Beatles, because they must have been one of the most covered artists of all time. And we're going to start with the song they covered. Here are the Beatles. This is Twist and Shout. So that was the Beatles. Always remember Ferris Bueller singing that, Matthew Broderick doing it in Chicago. But absolutely brilliant stuff, that, isn't it? Let's have a little listen to an earlier version. This is the Isley Brothers. There we go, Isley Brothers, Twist and Shout. And I think we've got to finish this off, haven't we, by having a little bit of another magical and brilliant and original cover of it. This is Salt and Pepper.
Sing it up, baby, now. You gotta twist and shout. Come on, baby, now. Gotta work it on out.
And that's taking me right back to a very interesting time of life, that one, Joe. What can you tell us about the song then? You know, what is it that's made it so well covered?
Well, It was originally performed by a relatively unknown band called the Top Notes in 1961, but the first person to really bring it out were the Isley Brothers, the version you played there. So I think it's very appealing chordally. If I do it here in D, it's like it's a 2-bar loop, D, G, and A. It's a 1-4-5 loop. This is a fun fact. I was talking to one of the team about this earlier this week. It is the same chords as La Bamba. La Bamba. And because it's the same chord loop, you can sing one over the other fairly easily. So I just think it's a very accessible song. It captures the early energetic spirit of rock and roll. It's just super simple and it's really hooky. So yeah, what's not to like?
That's fantastic. You've selected another Beatles song which has been covered, Joe, and a great suggestion because it's not one that you might think of. So let's have a little listen to I Feel Fine.
Baby's good to me, you know she's happy as can be, you know she said so. I'm in love with her and I feel fine. Baby says she's mine, you know she tells me all the time, you know she said
The Beatles and I Feel Fine. Joe, is that a bossa nova? Have I got that completely wrong?
It's got an interesting ride cymbal rhythm. I wouldn't say it tips all the way over into bossa, but it's certainly quite sophisticated cymbal work for the time. Yes, it's fair to say.
A nice bit of delicate Ringo Starr action there. And the cover version by a new act to me, the Charles River Valley Boys. This is new to me, Joe, so once again, thank you for educating me tonight. The Charles River Valley Boys, this is I Feel Fine.
Baby, good to me, you know she's happy as can be, you know she said so. I'm in love with her and I feel fine. Baby says she's mine, you know she tells me all the time, you know she said so. I'm in love with her and I feel fine.
So anybody who's just listening in and is worried that I might be reaching the deliverance stage of 4 weeks after Christmas without a day off, don't worry about it. That was the Charles River Valley Boys suggested by Professor Joe. What's going on there, Joe?
So that was an authorized cover version, believe it or not. So in 1966, the Charles River Valley Boys, they're from what is now my part of the world, New England, so near Massachusetts. There were students at Harvard and MIT in the late 1950s, and they were a bluegrass band, various changes of personnel over the years, but they actually asked permission from the Beatles, mid-period Beatles, to record these versions. They came up with this album in 66 called Beatle Country, which I wholeheartedly recommend. I'm kind of addicted to it. Sometimes it's on a loop in my car, and it's an extraordinary album. Really respectful cover versions, just a bit more bluegrass than you were expecting.
Yeah. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. That's a really big thing, isn't it? Ukulele orchestras. And you mentioned earlier that it kind of leads to a TikTok phenomenon as well, which is there a reason those songs work particularly well as a TikTok cover?
Well, again, I think it's just down to accessible short hooks. Any song that you can recognize in a tiny number of seconds is more likely to go viral, to be accessible via social media channels. That's I think it's just simple, great hook writing.
All right, excellent stuff. Now, Joe, I think, have we got time, do you think, to play a reminder? We don't need to do the original. Can you do this? I don't know if you've set it up in a way where you could just play the cover version that we're looking for, just as a reminder. So if you've got your pen and paper ready, you're going to do Professor Joe's music quiz again. All these songs from 1971. We know who the original artist is, but we're looking for the cover artist. Who is the singer performing these songs? Fire away, Joe.
Yeah, we can do that. So just for info, just in case, I'm sure no 5 Live listeners would ever cheat, but just in case you have fired up your Shazam or your She's Whose Name We Cannot Speak, Alexa, we can't say her name right here, then this won't work. We have disabled, we've fiddled with the audio so that those services won't identify them. So here we go. This is number 1. This is Rocket Man, originally by Elton John.
And I think it's going to be a long, long time till touchdown brings me around again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. No. I'm a rocket man. Rocket man.
Okay, this is number 2 from 2003. This is a cover version of The Who's Behind Blue Eyes. What is the band?
No one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind blue eyes.
So, moving on to the next one. This is a version of Don McLean's classic American Pie. Who is singing?
I started singing, bye bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. And good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye, singing.
For number 4, this is a version of John Lennon's classic Imagine. It's from 2007. Who is singing?
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us.
And finally, for number 5, this is from 1974, a cover version of David Bowie's Life on Mars. Who is singing?
Take a look at the long man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know. He's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars?
Right, well, that's brilliant stuff, Joe. Thank you for playing them again. Really appreciate it. Just very quickly, Simon in Edinburgh says the American singer in the first cover is actually a Canadian. I've been out with Canadians tonight. They all shouted at the radio. Also, since I'm the millionth listener to point this out, I've got the other 4 coverists as well.
I'll take it. Yes, Canadian by birth, famous in America. Exactly right. I apologise to my my Canadian friends just over the border there.
Good man. Well, Joe, we've got so many songs to talk about, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to jump out of this just for a second because we do have some breaking news that we need to talk about. In fact, I'm being told that we can hang fire just a little bit longer, actually, Joe. So don't worry about that. We will come to it in just a second when we are ready. Joe, suggestions for Gordon's best song opening lines. Bless my cotton socks. I'm in the news from Teardrop Explodes. That's Helen Sainsbury in Brixton. Thanks for that. We'll put that on the list for you, Helen. But here's a list for you, Joe. Slayer, Born to be Wild. Amazing. How about this one? Hi, guys. Always liked Stand By You by the Pretenders. Who on earth let Girls Aloud butcher it? Truly horrifying, says Matt. Gordon, the 9 Inch Nails cover version of Hurt by Johnny Cash, stunningly different, and that's from Brett the Cabbie. Really good suggestion, that one, Brett, thank you. Polly's been in touch as well. She said, has anyone suggested Sunny, originally by Bobby Hebb? That's a cracker. Mike in Chelmsford, Sisters of Mercy, Jolene. There's a one for you. Daydream Believer was covered by the Monkees, but the original was written and recorded by John Stewart, is one suggestion with no name. And here's another one, covers Blinded by the Light. The original is by Bruce Springsteen, the cover by Manfred Mann's Earth Band in 1976. Manfred's version hit number 1 in the US and is the only Springsteen song to reach number 1. Hang on. Manfred has made a living out of rearranging other people's songs. Nigel from Bingley, thank you very much. I mean, Joe, can you shed any light on that one? You know, Manfred Mann making a career out of rearranging?
Well, right, yeah, and a famously connection with David Bowie. I think that there's a lot of artists, some that maybe even we think of as songwriters, who have just happened to have had massive success with a cover version, and that's a great example.
Yes, so many have come in there. Thank you very much. And lots of answers being offered up. A few people might be close to getting 5 out of 5 here, but we will find out in just a second. But Joe, before we do give the answers away, there are a few other things that we want to touch on tonight. We're running slightly late now, but I do want to just return to our superstar performer this evening, Professor Joe Bennett, who brought us some of the best cover versions, some we hadn't heard of, some we were familiar with, and once again just shed new light on music that we all love. So Professor Joe, thank you so much for that tonight.
Oh, no worries. It was great to be here.
Yeah, it was a brilliant week this week. Thoroughly enjoying this, Joe, and we'll get you back on as soon as possible for a full hour next time. We won't be interrupted next time. But if you want to check Twitter at BBC5 Live, you will see those answers from Joe's quiz. But I will very quickly tell you: William Shatner 2011, Limp Bizkit 2003, Madonna in 2000, Avril Lavigne in 2007, Barbara Streisand in 74. They were the answers. And Jim in Port Talbot, congratulations! You were the only person tonight to get all 5. Absolutely absolutely outstanding effort. Well done, my man. Hardline's Ashley, 4 out of 5. Randy in Hereford, 3 out of 4. Matt and Sutton Coldfield, 4 out of 5. Great effort, everybody. Try again next week. Once again, we have got a victory, I think, a moral victory for Professor Joe Bennett, who is the star man tonight. Thank you so much for everybody's messages tonight. I'm sorry we couldn't get through all of your cover versions. We got as many in as possible. But Joe will be back next week. We'll be talking about brilliant first lines to songs. Remember, you can send them in 85058. All that remains for me to say is thank you so much for your company tonight. Thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow from 10:30. Now it's time for the news and sport on BBC 5 Live.